The rebellion begins in the first film of the series to be weak.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this review is going to be for 2007's Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the 5th entry in the Harry Potter series, and the first of this franchise to be directed by the guy who would be taking on the rest of the entire series from this point on, David Yates. Probably my least favorite director of this series. Yeah, he made Deathly Hallows, but he also directed this, and the next one that's going to be after this. Keep those in mind. So what is the plot of The Order of the Phoenix? Well, after a lonely summer yet again on Privet Drive, Harry returns to Hogwarts full of ill fortune. Few students or parents believe him or Dumbledore that Voldemort is really back. The Ministry is also decides to step in by appointing a new defense against the dark arts teacher, the most hated chick of the series, Dolores Umbridge, who proves to be the nastiest person Harry has ever encountered. Harry also can't help stealing glances with the beautiful Cho Chang, played by Kay Leon, and to top it off are dreams that Harry can't explain, and a mystery behind something which Voldemort is searching. With many of these things, Harry begins one of his toughest years at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Yeah, so, how is Order of the Phoenix made? Well, when it comes to getting the directors, British television director David Yates got chosen to direct the film after Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Director Mike Newell, chose not to come back and turn down offers. There were many other directors they had in mind, like Matthew Vaughn, Guillermo del Toro, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, and Marinard. But they all turned it down too. Even Alfonso chose to turn down coming back. Yates believed he was approached because the studio saw him being able to handle an edgy and emotional film with a political backstory. Filming took place in England and Scotland in exterior locations at Leavesden Film Studios at Watford for interior locations from February to November 2006, and had a 1-month break in June. Then post-production of the film continued for several months afterwards to add in the visual effects. The budget was reported to be $150 to $200 million. And then, after Order of the Phoenix was officially shot and marketed, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix would go on to be released to the public in the United States on July 11, 2002. And of course, like the last two, was released in IMAX as well, but would be released in the United Kingdom a day later on July 12th. When it came to this film's reactions, did it reach the same critical acclaim as, let's say, the first four? Not really. But it still got positive reviews from critics that was nominated for many awards, and the BAFTA Award for Best Production Design and Special Visual Effects, and had a worldwide 5-day opening of $333 million worldwide on a total. And of course, and it finished its run, it had a gross of $942 million worldwide, and became the second highest grossing film in 2007. Now, as for my reaction to my reaction to the Order of the Phoenix. Well, when it comes to this one, I used to kind of find this one my least favorites, because it just didn't really feel that appealing to me, and there were some kind of rush points that didn't really feel all that satisfactory, and some stuff did feel kind of a bit anticlimactic, but rewatching it now, it's still a weak entry. It's not like a great movie now, but it's a minor improvement over the first watch. Now I'd say it's the second weakest behind the next one. This was kind of where, honestly, this was kind of where some book fans just kind of felt the series was kind of starting to face a bit of a decline and kind of started to get a bit weak from here. And I just feel like David Yates just didn't really do the best job of the rest of the franchise until Deathly Hallows. That is. Deathly Hallows were the only great ones he did were the Deathly Hallows movies. And that's kind of why I wish Alfonso did come back for this, and I wish Mike Newell didn't turn down the offer to come back either. Like, I feel like those two should have came back for these 4 films. I feel like they would have done an even better job with this movie. I mean, I feel like Alfonso should have came back for this, and should have came back for Half-Blood Prince. I feel like he would have done a better job at this film. I mean, yeah, you have to still make it dark, like, obviously, but I feel like that would have been better. The first thing that kind of gets noticed about this installment is because the score, and the score just feels kind of lacking. Like we all know that John Williams' theme became very iconic by the time this film had come out, and a new composer for this film just really just kind of feels a different way, and just kind of changed the musical tone of the series, because the feel of this film just now feels very different from the first 4, and it's not necessarily a good thing. Like here's the thing. If you know the advice, if it's not broken, you don't fix it. I should have listened to that advice. And of course, Steve Kloves didn't come back to do this. And that's also where the film does really start to kind of go downhill. And Order of the Phoenix, despite being one of the shorter films of the series, it does feel a bit convoluted and choppy at times. Like, our new screenwriter is Michael Goldenberg. Like, now I will admit, though, maybe it is kind of hard to kind of adopt what was apparently the longest novel of the series into a feature film, and I can understand that, but I wish Steve Kloves didn't leave this one. And when it comes to more about the director, and yeah, David Yates was still able to coax some good performances out of the actors, obviously, still coax the good performances out of the cast, and the trio still give good performances, but the performances didn't really feel as great as the first 4 movies this time, and especially because there's some constantly not really that enjoyable innuendo towards this romantic attachments, and of course, and now, like, the one good thing Michael Goldenberg did right. The one thing he did was at least focus primarily on the lead character and not just the trio as a team, because it is true, Order of the Phoenix is kind of supposed to be Harry's story, because in this one he feels now alone in the world because nobody believes in Voldemort's back, and Dumbledore's kind of avoiding him, and of course, and so at least he nailed that part. That I will say. Goldenberg does also provide some more mature dialogue. Now, how do we start off the movie? Well, we start off the movie back in Privet Drive, and this time around, Harry's just sitting alone on a swing, and then Dudley and his friends come up. They're harassing Harry, and apparently Dudley and his friends were beating up this 10-year-old that apparently, according to them, deserved it, but then Dementors show up and attack both Harry and Dudley, but Harry repels them using his Patronus spell. Then, Harry's neighbor Fig takes them back to their house, where once they get back to the Dursleys' house, the Ministry of Magic detects the underage Harry using his magic and expels him from Hogwarts. But then, of course, Mad-Eye Moody and some other Ministry members show up, and they take him back to the Weasleys' household, and then later on, at the Ministry, Harry does get later exonerated, where after Fig and Dumbledore defend Harry during the hearing, So his expulsion is reversed. Then, of course, we find out more about this thing called the Order of the Phoenix, which is a secret organization that was founded by Dumbledore, and they informed Harry that the Ministry of Magic was attempting to stonewall rumors about Voldemort's return. Once we get to the Order's headquarters, Harry's godfather Sirius Black then mentions that Voldemort seeks this object he had previously lacked, and Harry believes that this object could be a weapon. The tonal shift of the movie, like I said, regardless of the intro, the movie's not terrible, it's still decently good. It's just a weaker film. The tonal shift is definitely one of the best aspects of the film. It does give the feeling of the calm before the storm, and you know a war is definitely about to begin, and the director does create this sense of impending dread that hangs over the film. The film doesn't still feel dour or depressing, it still does have some humor throughout, and just not nearly as much as like the first two entries. And what really sticks about this film is how great Daniel Radcliffe was as a Tyler protagonist. Like, in each film up to this point, like, he really evolved into this very talented young actor as this series had progressed, and it definitely does kind of shine with this performance. And throughout the movie, you see that he's haunted by the death of Cedric, and also feeling more alone than ever because nobody believes him about the return of Voldemort. Almost nobody does, that is. Some even believe he even killed Cedric to win the tournament. There's some that actually even think that. The sense of isolation that Harry had felt, is really further amplified here. And, I guess another problem I do have with the film is that Hagrid is kind of absent for almost a majority of the film, and Dumbledore does kind of avoid him, so there's kind of few he can also kind of confide in. Ron and Hermione are even less present throughout the film. They still have a role, but they're just not nearly as present this time. And now he's just become an unpopular figure in the public's eyes because of his claims that Voldemort has returned. So Harry's pretty much nearly got nobody for a while. There's a bit of darkness in the main character Harry in this film that nobody saw before in the previous 4 films. In the finale, when Sirius, I'll get to later, gets killed, Harry is about to torture Bellatrix, comes close to killing her, but then the most effective moment of the film is when he's pretty much when he also kind of snaps and shouts at Dumbledore, and it's also a shocking moment because it's out of character for Harry, and honestly works well because of how everything this character has been through. And another strength of the film is the introduction of a new character called Luna Lovegood. Luna Lovegood, played by Evanna Lynch. And this Luna character is actually this really great, sweet character. And their relationship with Harry, really does, especially because both of them are outsiders and both experience tragedy, it really became a crucial moment of the franchise and the story, in a way. So in that moment, Harry does find some support, which I'll get to more about Luna later. So, our Minister for Magic, Cornelius Fudge, decides to appoint Dolores Umbridge as the new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. And Umbridge turns out to be quite the pain, because she refuses to teach defensive spells, and that causes her and Harry to clash. And so, Umbridge gives Harry detention, and Harry has to write lines for lying, saying that he will not tell lies. And of course, the magic quill he's forced to use, it etches the words into his hand as he writes. Harry refuses to tell Dumbledore, even though Ron and Hermione are outraged and try to tell him that he should. But especially that's not going to work because Dumbledore has distanced himself from Harry. Then Umbridge starts to gain more control over the school, even tries to fire Professor Trelawney, which Dumbledore refuses to allow, and you can tell throughout her first scenes in Hogwarts, none of the teachers like her. McGonagall extremely hates her guts. Professor Snape is clearly annoyed by the interviewing, and Ron does also kind of snicker, and then Snape slaps him in the back of the head, because he clearly found her annoying as well, and just about She is already infamously hated by everyone. So, during all this, Ron and Hermione decide they help Harry form this private little rebellious defense arts class called Dumbledore's Army, which is a secret group to teach students to invent defensive spells. But Umbridge starts to suspect this and recruits some Slytherins for this inquisitorial squad to spy on the other students, which is pretty much convinced of like Argus Filch, Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, just a lot of the Slytherins. Meanwhile, though, Harry and Cho start to develop romantic feelings for each other during the teachings, and though one night, Harry starts to envision Arthur Weasley being attacked at the Ministry, and seeing it from the attacker's perspective. So Harry is now concerned that Voldemort's going to exploit this connection to Harry. Dumbledore has Severus Snape teach Harry teach this thing called occlumency to defend his mind from Voldemort's influence. During one of those lessons, Harry starts to see Snape's memories of how his father, James, bullied and tormented Snape in school. So he kind of know a little bit more about his father's childhood. And Snape's childhood as well in this bit. So that was one good little aspect they added to that. The connection in this film between Harry and Voldemort just starts to further isolate Harry from his friends. And then meanwhile, another villain who debuts in this series, one of the nastiest Death Eaters of all time. Was it? Yeah, what? I gotta think of that. Oh, Bellatrix Lestrange, who was Sirius's deranged Death Eater cousin, who had tortured and killed Neville Longbottom's parents. As we find out in this film, and she has just escaped Azkaban prison, and 9 other Death Eaters as well, and they've off to join Voldemort's army. Meanwhile, back at Hogwarts, though, Umbridge and her squad, they find out about Dumbledore's army. And Harry's led to believe that Cho had betrayed Dumbledore's army to Umbridge for a bit, and so their relationship is over. And of course, and Dumbledore is falsely accused of forming it. Harry tries to take the blame for it, but Dumbledore accepts the false blame. But he escapes as Fudge orders his arrest for Azkaban, and Umbridge is pretty much now the new headmistress. So, yeah, and of course, the whole secret organization is kind of now over. Like, apparently, Order of the Phoenix is the longest of J.K. Rowling's books, but weirdly enough, it has one of the shorter runtimes of the movies. It's, I'd say, the second shortest film of the series. As it wasn't really happy to hear for a lot of book fans. It does give the film a more fast-paced feeling, and like sometimes it does feel like a wise choice, but at times maybe it kind of should have been one of the longer films, to be fair. Like there's moments where slowing down, allowing scenes to breathe, like could have been a little more beneficial for that. That's kind of why I think that. Like, and another thing, like, you know how great the special effects were and the visuals were in the other 4 movies? Like, here, though, the artists and designers looked like they just worked hard to make everything look so realistic and blended together that one wouldn't realize, like, the difference between reality and fantasy in the first 4 films. But here, though, literally every effect just looks very haphazardly created. There's, like, little enthusiasm for what's being created. Sometimes some characters look fake in a lot of scenes. And there's some really CGI rendered characters that just stand out as almost blatantly not being real. Just everything just feels very erratically designed, but nothing feels anywhere really that magical as the previous 4 movies before this one. So it just lacks the genuine zest that was accustomed to the Harry Potter films and what made fans really start to get really attached to these movies in the first place. Instead of replace it with this dull sheet of blandness. Right there. Like, sure, the last 4 films had some boring pieces cleansed over something that kind of feels like tied to the fantasy elements of the books, but here, though, there's kind of more heightened sense of realism for the actors, but not much else. Other than that, it just feels like devoid of any of the magic that made these films popular. And, like, after you've dealt with Voldemort coming back, in the last movie, he is like in the movie for like a few scenes. He does appear like in visions and then appears like briefly around the end. And so, technically speaking, our real main antagonist of the movie is actually Dolores Umbridge. In this film, she is easily known by many Harry Potter fans as one of the most, if not the number one, most despised character in the entire series. Honestly, to me personally, she honestly qualifies for that. Qualifies for number one most hated character of the series for me. I hate her more than the Dursleys. I hate her more than Aunt March. I hate her more than Bellatrix. I hate her more than Voldemort. I hate her more than any of the Malfoys. I hate her more than most of the bratty Slytherin people. Like, top of that, like, she's one of the best examples of jerks are worse than villains. Like, she's a nasty person. She is horrible at teaching any of the students at Hogwarts, is horrible at her job, didn't do jack shit to prep anybody for the return of Voldemort or the war at Hogwarts, which pretty much caused many casualties, including Lupin and Fred, to die in Deathly Hallows Part 2. Because a lot didn't really get time to be prepared, a lot of people died in that war. So yeah, honestly, to me, she's the number one worst person of the series. We also get the debut of Bellatrix Lestrange, who actually I will admit is kind of this sadistically terrifying, but also kind of entertaining character, because Helena Bonham Carter does give a wonderfully evilly good performance of the character. And I felt she was perfectly casted for the character of Bellatrix. Another thing, as much as I hate Dolores Umbridge, Emil Stone, I will admit, actually also did very excellent as Umbridge. And how she got casted as Umbridge was, apparently her niece had read the book and felt that she'd be perfect for the role of Umbridge, and she read a bit about some parts of her character, and apparently the scene where Harry has the "I will not tell lies" thing carved into his hand with that magic quill, apparently that bit almost made her throw up. So honestly, I feel like she was also perfect for the role, and I don't think I could imagine anybody else really playing her. And of course, like most of the rest of the cast is still good with the material they have to work with. Like, even with the little screen time, like McGonagall or Hagrid or most of the staff at Hogwarts have in this film, they still do the great performances they have done in the other films. And so Harry experiences another vision, and this time it's a vision of Voldemort, this time torturing Sirius. So, before all that, like, we also do kind of, around this time, like, Harry is starting to kind of give up hope, and he sees, like, one student is actually crying over receiving the whole hand-carved thing, but I also see Fred and George with that student. And, like, Fred and George are known for being kind of the goofballs and the comic reliefs of the series, and they kind of like to cause trouble around Hogwarts and get into trouble together. Like, no, like, this time here, like, it actually shows her more than just that in this scene, because they're actually sitting beside the student, they're actually comforting him as he's kind of sobbing over the pain he got on his arm, got in his hand. Like this scene really shows that they're actually also very good characters, like and they're actually pretty selfless, and they come up, and pretty much after that, they clearly come up with this whole fireworks thing to disrupt the whole owl exams, and owl exams that Umbridge is forcing the students to take, and this destroys all the rules that got made, and this destroys all the exams, and Umbridge runs out of the school. But then, of course, after that, Harry, Ron, and Hermione rush to Umbridge's office to alert the Order, like the Flu Network, but Umbridge sadly catches them, along with her Slytherin pals. And just as she's about to severely punish Harry with this whole illegal spell that's not allowed to be used, Hermione claims that Dumbledore hid the secret weapon in the Forbidden Forest, so she and Harry trick Umbridge into following them to the Forbidden Forest, where Hagrid's giant half-brother Grop is kept. Then centaurs show up, confront them. Umbridge attacks one. But then, of course, Grop picks her up, and so this stops the attack spell, and the rest of the centaurs kidnap Umbridge, especially since after she insulted and attacked them, she tries having Harry tell him she means no harm, but Harry pretty much tells her, "I'm sorry, Professor, I must not tell lies," and so she's carried off, and we don't ever see her again for the rest of the film. Until a newspaper paper photo, that is. Other than that, she's never seen again for the rest of the film. So after that's taken care of, Harry and Hermione go back to Hogwarts to try to go save Severus, and it turns out Ron, Luna, Neville, and Ginny had outsmarted the Slytherin companions. So they go to the Ministry of Magic on these Thestrals that Luna had befriended to save Sirius. Like, you first meet Luna, like, this Luna character is already very great, and actually one of the few great bits of support that Harry has throughout the film, and this like very soft-spoken character that actually is kind of somewhat of a more, can be somewhat of a psychiatrist or therapist towards Harry during the more dark times that Harry's kind of going through throughout these movies in a way, kind of more comfort and support he has, and the six do enter the Department of Ministries to try to recover this object Voldemort is after. This object Voldemort's after is actually this bottled prophecy labeled with Harry's name. Just as they find it, though, some Death Eaters, including Malfoy's father Lucius and Bellatrix Lestrange, ambush them. And of course, Lucius reveals that Harry's vision of Sirius being tortured was actually a ruse to lure him there. Lucius tries to ask Harry for the prophecy, but Harry refuses to give him it, and so a fight ensues between Dumbledore's army and the Death Eaters. The Death Eaters, though, overpower the students and hold them hostage, and now Harry has no choice but to surrender the prophecy. So Harry hands it to Lucius, but just as it seemed like Lucius has won, Sirius and Lupin and many other Order members, Tonks, Kingsley, and Mad-Eye Moody even, all arrive, and they attack the Death Eaters. Lucius accidentally drops a prophecy, destroying it, and Sirius tries telling Harry to leave, but Harry refuses, and so they pretty much take on the Death Eaters together, and Sirius overpowers Lucius, and even shows his proudness of Harry, but sadly, just as this happy moment is going, Bellatrix then sadly kills Sirius. And he vanishes into the void. So, and this is a sad moment. This is definitely a sad moment, but the thing is, though, it kind of just comes by a little too quick. So, you don't really get a little bit of time to kind of brief on the final battle before that moment happens. And plus, not to mention, muting Daniel's scream did kind of hurt the scene a little bit. But I'll tell more on that in a little bit. But one other good thing about the Order of Phoenix is that it does delve into Snape's backstory when it reveals that Harry's father bullied him during their time as students. And these definitely scenes are great because it does show us the things that may not be as straightforward as we were led to believe for the first 4 times. And another thing, like Neville, who was kind of like spent like the first 2 films or first 3 films being the butt of many jokes. This time around, there isn't anything comical about him anymore. And Malfoy in this one, he goes from that spoiled cowardly brat to this kind of dark young man that's also not played for laughs any longer. So yeah, some of the running gags in this one are gone. And the least bland changes do come from the leading trio, whose evolution does follow a more natural pace. And especially because these characters are entering their 5th year of Hogwarts, and that means they're kind of pushing to 15. That is definitely, as they look a little older than their counterparts, but they still look young enough to still really be believed as teenagers. And of course, like, right there, so some of the more comical traits of the other films are definitely gone in this one. And of course, like, but the thing is, though, back to the kind of the more bad stuff about the film, like, It's kind of a confusing thing, though. Like, why wouldn't Harry Potter be trusted by anyone anymore? Like wasn't the Ministry of Magic kind of overreacting in that bit, or like they never know why they wouldn't believe that Voldemort was back, and how else do they think that incident would have ever happened, though? Like, it's kind of a bit confusing, though, and it does kind of really not make a lot of sense. This movie also does have a bit of non-specific political allegory as well, in a form of, like, 1984 style manipulation of Harry's school, but, like, with, like, the reality denying forces of the Ministry of Magic, and I will admit that stuff is pretty cleverly well done. There are still some darkly humorous developments coming in the form of countless draconian announcements that get posted on the school walls because Umbridge enforcing those to happen. Like, the satirical political theme does kind of pair well with the string of discourse around Harry's doubt of his own goodness, and a message that nobody's is ever fully bad, like love and kindness being what redeems him from being like Voldemort. Now we get on to how Order of the Phoenix ends, aka the finale. Where in the very last moment of the film, Voldemort finally does appear, but just as Harry's about to kill Bellatrix, especially after Lupin had tried to stop him, but Harry goes after her though, but just as he's about to kill her, Voldemort then appears, but just as he's about to kill Harry, Dumbledore arrives, and a violent duel erupts, and destroys much of the atrium. Bellatrix though does manage to escape, and the two wizards are evenly matched, so Voldemort is able to possess Harry's body and wants Dumbledore to sacrifice him. But it doesn't work though, because the love Harry feels for his friends and family quickly drives out Voldemort. And of course, Ministry officials arrive before Voldemort separates, and Fudge now realizes that Dumbledore and Harry were right. Voldemort has indeed returned. And so, because they were both right, Fudge is now forced to resign, is disgraced, he's ruined for life, and he has to resign from his position for good. Umbridge, on the other hand, is also ruined for life, and is also dismissed, and an investigation about her is pending. So, yeah, her reputation is destroyed, and she's kicked out of Hogwarts for good. And Dumbledore is reinstated as Hogwarts headmaster. So, in the next scene, Dumbledore then explains why he had distanced himself from Harry. The reason he distanced himself from Harry was to prevent Voldemort exploiting their connection. And he also reveals the prophecy as well. As Harry's grieving Sirius's death, Luna Lovegood also comforts him in a way, and it turns out Luna's not at the end of term feast is because she's looking for some things that got hidden. Harry offers to help her look for them, but Luna doesn't mind it, and of course, after that, it shows the students all going home, and Harry is now coming to terms with the prophecy, neither can live while the other survives. It turns out that's what the prophecy is. Like, then you see one last shot of everybody going back home on the train, and one last shot of Hogwarts, and that is how it ends. Right there. Just, they're all going back home until the next year. That's that, and now everybody knows Voldemort indeed has returned. And more is about to come. So yeah, Order of the Phoenix, it's good, but I do have bad qualities with the movie. Though, like, some more bad qualities, that is. One obvious one, like the dialogue in this one, it's still decently good, but times it does feel a little fake and vague, and I feel like the movie empathizes many things wrong, like the Harry Cho relation, like, for a short bit of time, it kind of feels like that's what the movie sometimes feels like it's about, but then after she kind of like rats out the organization, she's just not seen for the rest of the film. And Bellatrix Lestrange, like Helen Bonham Carter gives a great performance as a character, but on this one, she only really appears later on, but thankfully she does appear a little more in the next films. And the colors in the cinematography are less saturated and grittier, and in a way, and also like when it comes to the ending, yes, glad Umbridge gets dismissed and fired. I'm glad Fudge resigns in disgrace, but one thing I do not like about this finale is how Argus Filch is not fucking fired as well for aiding Umbridge, for kind of being somewhat of an accomplice to Umbridge. In a way, like, I'm surprised this guy was still allowed to be at Hogwarts. Because, like, this guy was kind of an accomplice. He immediately idolized Umbridge and even quickly joined her organization. Like, I'm surprised this guy wasn't fired. Like, and also kind of weird how Draco and his friends are also still allowed to be at Hogwarts as well, as they were also accomplices. Like, no, fuck that. They should have been kicked out too. But oh well. And some of the final battle does feel a little bit weak. I mean, not as weak as the finale of Half-Blood Prince, but like even the finale of Chamber of Secrets was a little better than this. And when it comes to Sirius's death scene, yeah, it's kind of sad seeing Sirius die, but I'm going to be honest when I say this. I wish they did not edit out Daniel Radcliffe's screams. Apparently, like, his scream was not supposed to be muted, but the reason why it was muted is because apparently they were too heartbreaking for Emma and Helena. But I still wish they were kept. Like, I wish we didn't really just have that kind of sob audio playing in the background over his reaction, and I feel like if his scream had not been muted, I feel the scene would have been much more effective. Like, I feel I probably would have felt the emotion a little more. And plus, we didn't really see too many scenes of Harry and Sirius together. That was also kind of a bit of the problem. I mean, it was still a well-acted moment, but I wish they did not edit. I really wish they did not mute that scream. I wish it could have stayed. I wish it could have just been left the way it was. But other than those, The Order of the Phoenix. It's better on rewatch. It's not a terrible movie. It's still a good movie. Somewhat good enough movie, but it is kind of where the series does kind of falter for some time. So in the end, just honestly stream Order of the Phoenix because for Potter fans, like, this one just doesn't really feel that grand, and it even does feel a little bit lifeless at times and a little rushed at times. Anyways, guys, that's it for my view of The Order of the Phoenix. If we're not going to rate The Order of the Phoenix, here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you're pumped after seeing Voldemort return in the last film and see everyone prepping for the war, I would probably just stream this one online because there's not much of that in this one, and it does have some lifeless moments. And if we're only going to rate Harry Potter and The Order of the Phoenix, I'm going to give Harry Potter and The Order of the Phoenix a 7 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for The Order of the Phoenix, so you can go back. What is our next watch? Oh, right. Man. I'm about to rewatch. Right, this. Like, this isn't a... Okay, this is not a terrible movie either, but this one would probably now has to be my least favorite. And you'll find out why. I mean, it's not going to be a rant. It's not going to be a negative review because there's still good things about the film. It's still a decently it's not a terrible film. But it's the one I enjoy the least. And you'll find out why in that review. And rewatch. But until then, guys, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.